Hello, welcome to episode 67 of The Thing About Golf, Golf Australia magazine's ongoing quest to figure out what it is that hooks people on this wonderfully infuriating game. Rod Murray's my name, and joining me from the Scotland studios of the Golf Australia media empire today is your host for this episode, should I say, John Huggan. Huggy, welcome. This is one I'm sure that you've been keen to do for a while. Lee Westwood, he's been one of the game's very best players for a very long time, and you've known him for most of it.
Well, I wouldn't say most of it, but I've known him. I think I first met Lee in 1995. Part of the banter that goes on between the two of us is that way back in the day, I won what is actually the oldest 72-hole amateur tournament in the world, the Lee Gold Medal in Scotland, and Lee also was a winner of that. And the banter usually goes along the familiar lines. I always say to him, now, tell me, Lee, how many times did you win the Lee Gold Medal? Because I won it twice and he only won it once. And of course his response is always the same answer. Yeah, every time I played in it.
Very nice. That's a lovely back and forth, a circular sort of an argument. There's a lot of Ryder Cup and major chat in this discussion, which you'd expect. We kind of underrate Westwood in so many ways, don't we? And you touch on it with him. It's almost cruel, a little bit like Montgomery, that he hasn't won a major, isn't it?
Well, if you look at his record in the majors, it's I think I mentioned in the interview the Sandy Lyle is the classic example of someone who won two majors in 100 major appearances, and there's only two other top tens other than the two wins. In comparison with Lee, I mean, Lee's got umpteen top tens. I think it's about 20, something like that, and he's been close, as we all know, 3 or 4 or 5 times to winning the Open, the Masters, all sorts. He's been a bit unlucky. I mean, history will remember him as certainly one of the best players never to win one. I don't think he's going to win one now. I don't think even he thinks that. But hell of a record. Tremendous player.
It goes directly to that point that your friend and mine, Mike Clayton, often talks about, doesn't it? People always saying, what they want to be is consistent. Actually, what you want to do, Sandy Lyle is the pin-up child for it there, isn't it? 2 wins, 2 other top 10s in 100 starts, and he's lauded as a dual major champion. Yeah. Lee Westwood, strings of top 10s and top 25s, but not a trophy in the cabinet, and gets overlooked in that discussion. So it goes to that point. One last thing before we go, or 2 last things before we go. He's a real straight shooter, Westwood, isn't he? He's got a strong personality, and if he has an opinion, you won't be in doubt as to what it is. Yeah,
he's prepared to say things. I mean, he's been one of the few that's owned up, if you like, to going to play in the Saudi circuit if it's ever going to happen. I think, like most people, I'm getting tired of waiting to hear who's actually going to be playing in the damn things. But he's been prepared to take the flak. Which, I mean, it's difficult. Nobody can defend the human rights stuff in Saudi Arabia, and I don't think Lee. No. I think he says in the interview that he's not defending that either. It's purely a money thing. At least he's honest enough to admit that, which many of the others are not.
Yeah, indeed. You didn't talk a lot about it with him. That was probably partly my fault, Huggy, because the timing of the interview when it was going to come out, I wasn't sure where we'd be with all of that. But yes, he's more, as you say, he's one of the few who. It reminds me a little bit of Adam Scott. When Adam Scott didn't want to play in the Olympics, he just said so, that he didn't think that the game should be in the Olympics. That Olympics, 10 or 15 players, chickened out on the notion of the Zika virus, which was by far the more cowardly way out, I think. And you've got to have some respect, agree with him or not, about that. Well, it's a fantastic chat. I hope people enjoyed it as much as I do. Thank you for dropping by to give us a quick intro, Huggy, and let's get to Lee Westwood.
Lee Westwood, welcome to the Thing About Golf podcast. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And I always start with the first question, and this is, what was the thing about golf for you?
I think the thing about golf for me was probably the responsibility. The fact that it wasn't a team sport, which I played a fair bit before golf, and the fact that the responsibility was with me, whether that be for results or even, the performance and just going out and practicing. In golf, nobody kind of drags you out there. You have to do it yourself. You have to be your own cheerleader. And
Were you a frustrated midfielder at football or something before that?
Frustrated left wing
okay.
player, yeah. I don't know how good I was because they moved me around a lot, so clearly I didn't dominate one position.
So left wing, you don't kick with your left foot, do you?
Kick with both feet.
Mm.
Yes, I was injured when I was 9-10 years of age, and I couldn't swing my right foot at it, so I had to learn to kick with my left leg or not play football at all. So I learned to kick with my left leg.
Not a bad talent to have, though.
Yeah,
football. So how did you find golf then? At that point, was it your dad that took you out there?
Well, nobody in my family played golf, but for some reason, my grandparents had bought me half a set of golf clubs. I think it was something to do with the guy that my mum worked for. He had half a set of golf clubs, and he was trying to get rid of them. So my mum bought them and gave them to my grandparents to give to me for Christmas. And they sat in my wardrobe for about 8 months, and it got to the August after that, and one summer holidays, and my dad finally got sick of me throwing stones in where he was fishing because he loved to be fishing, and I hated it. And that was it. We went and played at the local municipal golf club, Kilton Forest. I had a few good ones, a lot of bad ones. Went around about 180. Yeah. I think he probably beat me, and really fell in love with the game from there. You know, a couple out the middle, and it felt good.
Yeah, once it gets
like the challenge. Yeah, just enjoyed the challenge.
Now I have to touch on this because you mentioned your grandparents there. Is this the grandparents that owned the dancing studio? Yes. Tell me a bit more about that. And I think we're going to see you on Strictly Come Dancing at some point. Are we not?
Well, I would doubt that.
No. Why would you? Come on, you told me you've got some talent in that area.
I haven't got enough time. Yeah. You know, we play golf through that part of the season. Right. That's my excuse anyway. It was the grandparents that had an old-time dancing school, and my dad conned me basically by saying that going and learning old-time dancing would be good for my balance and help my football. Right. So I went along, did it for a couple of years. Got highly commended in the Lilac Waltz and the Boston Two-Step, as you do. And they probably did help my my football. Probably helped my golf as well, you know.
Have you retained any of it?
No, not really.
You're not.
It wouldn't take me long. It wouldn't take me long to get the steps back. You know. I would think I could pick it up again.
Yeah. Did you tell your friends about this, or was this a secret?
Yeah, most of them knew. Yeah. You know, most of the lads had sisters that went to my grandparents, and I was there. So
yeah.
You know, brushed it off, and
I can imagine. Now I know we've talked before about your amateur career. I'm always interested in that for one particular reason, which I'm sure you can guess. But it seemed to me that you left the amateur game having succeeded at a very high level, but didn't get the recognition that you maybe deserved. Is that how you look back on it?
I don't know.
I know you probably don't care at this point. But,
I won the British Youths and the Leven gold medal once.
Yes. Yeah. But you've got to be good to win that twice, obviously.
Yeah. I'm a far better player than I ever was. Yeah. And it would. If you're talking about getting in the Walker Cup team, then it would have been nice to play for the Walker Cup team. But you know, some of the excuses I was given why I didn't get picked. You know, there were too many English players in the team that year and things like that. Probably led to me turning professional and you know, not relying on selectors to pick me for something.
Yeah, I mean, I lived in that world for a while, and some of the things I saw, you look back now and you just shake your head. I mean, you just mentioned one of the perfect examples. I once wrote a column saying that they've never picked the best Great Britain and Ireland Walker Cup team, never, because it's a quota system. I mean, if the best 10 players were all English, that wouldn't be the team, or Scottish or whatever. You know. I mean, I remember getting a note from Michael Benalek being mortally offended by this, but it was true.
Yeah.
You know,
I've always thought that teams should be picked on, you know, pure ability, not where you're from or, you know, other things.
Yeah. But do you look back on that time of your life with some pleasure? I mean, what's...
Yeah, you know, playing the amateur game and the amateur circuit, made a lot of great friends, played a lot of good golf courses. You know, British youths and British boys and British amateurs were always held around fantastic golf courses, normally links courses.
Better courses than sometimes you play on the tour, you know.
Well, I think British amateur, I played at My first one I remember playing at Muirfield, where Rolf Muntz won.
Yeah.
English amateurs I remember playing at Saunton, places like that. British boys, places like Formby, Hunstanton, Montrose. So you got to play great golf courses, ones we wouldn't play now because they're just not long enough.
Yeah.
But certainly, if you were doing, say, a tour of the British Isles and you wanted to not play courses on the Open Championship rota, if you followed the path that British amateurs, British youths, and British boys were played at, Glasgow Gales, for instance, is a fantastic golf course. Yeah, so if you followed that, then you would have a fantastic time playing some great links golf courses.
In the midst of all this, at what point, or was there a point where that you can identify as, right, this is what I'm going to do, I'm good enough? I mean, when did it ever twig like that, or is it just, this is what I want to do right from the start?
It sort of crept up on me over a period of years. Getting picked for the England boys team, I thought, right now, I'm top 12 in the country. These are the 12 best English golfers, boy golfers of kind of my generation, and
who was in the team with you?
I can't remember because I was one of the younger ones of that. I had about 4 years in it,
right.
Sort of 15 to 19, I guess.
Yeah.
So Ian Garbutt would have been my England boys captain when I first got into the England boys team, and when I left it, I was the England boys captain. So, but Michael Welsh, who probably not a lot of people would have heard of on your.
Well, I did a story on him, last year for Golf Digest America, and extraordinary record.
Phenomenal talent, yeah. I mean, nobody hit it better than Michael for a year and a half, I think.
Yeah.
Even in the men's game, I would say, his dominance of the boys' game was, I don't think it's probably been done again.
Well, not to the extent that he did.
Yeah.
I mean, it was. I remember seeing a picture of him with all the trophies. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So the amateur game was good. I made a lot of friendships and played a lot of good golf courses.
Mm-hmm. And at what moment did you think, I'm turning pro? What tipped you over the edge?
I think progressing through the England teams and getting into the England men's team, and then starting to win things like the Leven gold medal and the British youths.
Yeah, well, you were kind of starting to dominate at that level, which I always think you kind of have to do.
Yeah, and I was winning by a few shots, not just and I was starting to shoot low scores around good golf courses, 65s and stuff like that. So it was high quality golf that I was playing, and I turned pro playing good stuff as well, which I think is important. I see guys come out and they're not playing great. They feel like it's their time to turn pro, but they're not playing very well at the time, and they come out and it's crushing for them. Their confidence takes a hit, and some of them never recover from it. I say to most kids, they say, when do you think I should turn pro? I say, well, make sure you're playing well when you do turn pro.
Yeah. How do you compare that Lee Westwood with Lee Westwood now in terms of the level of play golfer?
The 19-year-old Lee Westwood, the 49-year-old
Well, the guy who
Lee
just
Westwood.
turned pro, yeah.
I've obviously had a lot more experiences. Backswing's probably not quite as long. Hip turns probably not quite as deep and fluid. But I've learned things along the way, as anybody does growing up. I've grown up. People have seen me out here playing golf. They've seen me grow up. I've grown up playing golf and playing on the European tour. So, just wiser.
But what I was trying to get you to there was early on. I mean, you were a phenomenal winner. I mean, you were winning at an incredible rate.
It took me a few years to get the knack of it, but I obviously turned pro in '93, and '94 was my first year. Came out of the blocks pretty quickly, made the first 12 cuts, had enough to keep my card, so cruised through the rest of the year. Got to Valderrama, which was a goal that year. Had a poor second year, but then went to see Pete, and he turned my game around.
Pete Cowan.
Yeah, Pete Cowan, and had a couple of chances at the start of '96, and then in August '96 won the Scandinavian Masters, and then it was really a massive injection of confidence and belief then, and went and won Japan the end of that year, visa to Hale. And then the following year, picked up with a win in Kuala Lumpur, the Malaysian Open, and really went on from there in 97. Won, I think, 3 more.
The Aussie Open?
At the end of 97, the Aussie Open, yeah. And then 98, I think I won 8 tournaments worldwide. 99, maybe 4 tournaments. And then 2000, another 8 tournaments worldwide.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, that's incredible rate.
And when you're in it, you don't have time to appreciate what's going on. You kind of get into a mindset where you keep going home, putting the trophy on the sideboard, then going away on the following Tuesday and picturing another trophy there on the sideboard when you get back. If you're winning 8 times a year, if you're playing 24 tournaments, you're winning once every 3 weeks, aren't you? So it definitely got a habit, and I don't want to say I didn't appreciate it, but it certainly didn't dawn on me at the time how good it was to be winning that often. And
you probably appreciate it more now than
I do, looking back. Yeah, I know how hard winning is, and it was coming easy at that time.
Yeah. Talk a bit about the Australian Open, which I know was one of the bigger wins, given who you beat down the stretch, and given this is for Golf Australia magazine, so I'm sure they'll be interested in your thoughts on what went on that day.
Yeah, so I'd played well all of 97, and then at the end of 97, I went on a tour around the rest of the world. We always used to take in the Visa Teo and the Dunlop Phoenix, and from there I went down and played in... prior to the Visa Teo, I went to Chateau Elan to play the World Open or something like that. Gene Sarazen World Open. Which I qualified for through winning the Malaysian Open, I think. Went there, finished second to Mark Calcavecchia. Nearly pipped him. He had about a 10-shot lead with 9 holes to go, and I got it down to 1 with 1 hole to go. And then flew from there to Japan, and I won the Visa Teo. And then the following week, I think I played the Dunlop Phoenix and finished 3rd or something like that. Didn't win, but finished 3rd or 4th. And then from there, I went down to Australia, and it was the Aussie Open at Metropolitan. Played well all week and found myself... I played with Nick Ahern in the 3rd round, and I think Greg Norman was in the second last group, and he shot a good round and I shot a good round, and we found ourselves paired together in the final round. And
what was it like at that point? I mean, he was...
Yeah, I'd met Greg.
Was he world number 1 at that point?
Yeah, I'd met Greg, but I'd grown up, idolising Greg. He was really, the golfer I wanted to be, because he's been world number 1 for so long. I loved the way he played golf, so aggressively.
More than Faldo? He was your guy?
Yeah. More than Sebi, more than Faldo.
Really? Wow.
Well, all the European guys, I wanted to, hit it like Greg, really. Swashbuckling style. And found myself in the final round of the Australian Open in Melbourne, playing against Greg Norman, who was still world number 1 and a hero to many down there, and ended up beating him on the 4th extra playoff hole, which I guess I wasn't the most popular, but the people of Melbourne certainly embraced me, and could see that a young kid from the other side of the world had come over, and I think they appreciated that.
They know golf.
I'd taken Greg on around a brilliant golf course, and just managed to pip him. Held my own, held my bottle, and managed to pip him.
Yeah, I don't even know the answer to this question. Did you go back and defend it?
I didn't. Probably wish I had. I went back the following January and played in the Aussie Masters. That was my next tournament after the Australian. Right. So I kind of went home and then went back to Australia as Australian Open champion. But I couldn't get down there for some reason. I think they changed the date, and it was up against another tournament that I was defending, maybe in Japan. So I couldn't make it back.
I remember asking Phil Mickelson this question, and he gave the diplomatic answer. I asked him how did he feel lucky or unlucky to have played at the same time as Tiger. Now, you took him on a couple of times, and you beat him a few times. But Phil took the view that he made a lot more money because of Tiger, but he won fewer tournaments because of Tiger. Is that probably how you see it? That's a fair
point. Yeah. I wouldn't disagree with that. I think we were lucky to have played in the Tiger era, where clearly TV money's gone up and purses have gone up. I think we're lucky to play against probably the best player of all time, to test ourselves. I think if you want to be great at any sport, it's nice to play against somebody who's regarded as the best ever. So, yeah, it's. I feel fortunate to have, played in that era and played against Tiger a lot of times. He normally beat me, but once or twice, I got one over on him.
Mm-hmm. What made him better than everybody else?
His rubbish was good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, his rubbish was really good. When he played poorly, he could still win tournaments. And phenomenal putter and short game. I believe, you'd have to ask him, but I believe he learned his short game from Butch, who learned a lot of the technique from Greg, and Greg learned a lot of the technique from playing out on the European Tour with Seve.
Right, yeah.
So that kind of filtered down through, a few generations of players there.
Yeah. Well, there's the old story about Tiger playing a practice round at Augusta with Seve and Jose Maria, and disappearing after 9 holes to go and practice what he'd seen them doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way of learning,
Yeah.
passing it down,
Yeah. Did you, you mentioned Pete Cowan earlier. Have you always been what kind of learner are you? Do you need the sort of backup of the feel or information or somebody showing you how to do it? What's the best way for you to learn?
I'm a very visual learner, so it helps if I can. Camera phone's been great for me, being able to see, what I'm doing and put a feel to it. Because often I'll have a lesson and then I'll try and build a feel up, and I'll think, yeah, that's right, and then I'll look at it on camera and I'll think, well, that's not changing how I thought it might, or it's not moved enough. So I learn very easily that way, and Pete's always been good at giving me feels and developing my own feels rather than giving me his feels, how he would feel a certain move with his body.
Yeah, pretty much everybody plays by feel ultimately, I think.
Yeah.
In the end,
your hands are the only thing in contact with the club, aren't they? So you've got to develop your own feel. And yes, it is.
Yeah.
You couldn't play by numbers, putting it in position. I'll stand on a range and work on positions, but the last part of the range session is synchronizing it all together at speed, which a lot of that comes down to feel.
Yeah. I had Dennis Pugh on this podcast a few months ago now, and I think he said that he and Monty had fired each other 17 times, something like that. You're now back working with Pete for the umpteenth time.
Yeah, it's not 17. It's probably about
how often is it?
4 or 5.
Right, okay.
It's not so much a firing, it's more of a needing a different point of view and a bit of space. You spend a lot of time together. I'm going back and working with caddies as well. That I had caddy for me years ago. I had Mickey Doran caddy for me a few weeks back, and enjoyed that. Myself and Mickey won 16 tournaments in 3 years, and I fired him after that. So he must be thinking, what did I have to do?
Yeah, exactly.
So, you spend a lot of time together, and occasionally you do need a break. But, at the end of the day, it's just business. And I think as long as you part on good terms and there's no real dramatic falling out, obviously things get a little bit tetchy. But, if you don't say anything you shouldn't say, then there's no reason you shouldn't come back and work together. There's very few people in the game of golf that I would have more respect for than Pete Cowan.
Yeah. Have you had any bad breakups?
No, not really.
No. It's amusing stroke interesting to me that your wife caddies for you as much as she does.
Yeah.
The regular caddies are probably looking at that and thinking, you're not doing our image at least any good, because as you've told me, I don't think your wife knows a hell of a lot about golf and isn't giving you a hell of a lot of advice.
Knows more now.
She's
caddied
probably
for a couple of years. Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying. She's basically just carrying the bag, and you're doing a lot of things that the caddy would like to be involved in.
Yeah.
The regular caddy.
She carries the bag, obviously, which is no easy thing, and she's great psychologically for me. She listens to and has her own conversations with my psychologist Ben, and we discuss what I'm doing with Ben, and she can jog my memory and be there as a sounding board for me. Knowing when to talk about other things, or asking me questions about how I'm feeling, and getting that out in the open if I'm ever feeling under pressure. And obviously she doesn't do too much with yardages and clubs and wind direction and things like that. I work all that out, but that's good for me because we're out there for 5 hours and there's a lot of stuff to think about, well, there's a lot of time to think about stuff that you shouldn't be thinking about.
Yeah.
And if I'm doing yardages, it's a distraction. It gets me into the shot without thinking about how I'm going to swing it or where the trouble is. If I'm thinking about where the pin is and what the yardage is, I'm not thinking about where the water or where the bunkers are.
Well, you're thinking you've got less time to think about technique.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, is this going to be an ongoing thing? I mean, is Helen going to be and how do you choose when she's on and when she's not?
We do that purely by parenting schedules, really. My two kids are fairly well grown up now, Sam and Poppy, but Helen's got a daughter, Edie, from her first marriage, and she's only 12. So we don't like to be apart from her too much, or I don't like Helen to be away from her for too long. So 2 weeks is about the max, we try and do, and we factor in from them. There's a few guys out there on tour, caddies. If Sam can't do it, because Sam does it occasionally, but he's doing his university degree at the moment.
Where is he?
In Newcastle. Just finishing it off, and then he wants to have a go at trying to be as good a golfer as he can. See what level he can get to. And when he can't do it, then I get one of the other guys in, like Mickey that worked for me. Lee Warren is caddying for me this week at the British Masters. He worked for Brandon Grace for a long time, and Alex Noren. And at the start of the year, Dan Parrott worked for me in Abu Dhabi. So it's nice that those guys will they're kind of freelance, I guess, and they do it every now and again. And
how does that work with the philosophy that you just told me about how you do the yardages and all the rest of it?
I carry on doing the same.
You just do it.
I give them, these are the rules, and
right.
They're professional enough to...
Yeah. Easy week for them, really.
Yeah, piece of cake, yeah. Just carry the bag and keep up.
Yeah, keep up, shut up, the old cliche. We mentioned Tiger, obviously. Phil and Ernie were the two that stepped up the most. Probably Ernie.
VJ, I mean, you can't...
VJ, absolutely, yeah.
You could not say VJ didn't step up. I mean, he won 10 tournaments in a year and took the world number one spot.
Yeah. It was interesting that Tiger got in everybody's head as much as he did. Because Phil certainly backed off a little bit in terms of...
Did he get in everybody's head, or was he just that good? Was he just brilliant?
What do you think?
I think he was just brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there must have been a time... well, you were maybe one of the exceptions, taking him on down the last 9 holes on Sunday afternoon. There was plenty of occasions where there was certainly a time when it was the sort of less heralded players were the ones that were stepping up and going,
I think
like
a lot
Bob
of people,
May and guys like that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people looked at it as a challenge. As you can't lose it, can we? It's Tiger, he's supposed to win. So whereas a few of the other guys that maybe thought they should be winning more often than they should, maybe or not him again, kind of thing.
Yeah, but you're right to bring up VJ. He kind of
David
gets
Duval.
overlooked. Yeah,
at the start of Tiger becoming dominant. Yeah, in '99. Retief Goosen had a spell where he won a lot, but I think VJ, Phil, and Ernie stand out the most.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which of those would be the best in your mind? Who would be number 2 or 1A after Tiger?
I think Ernie. Yeah.
I'm an Ernie guy too. I must admit. So.
I don't know why either. I just think that I think if Tiger hadn't have taken all them majors in that time, I think Ernie would have taken the most.
Yes. Yeah. Well, Ernie said to me once that he was told his whole life that he was going to be the best player, and he believed that he was going to be the best player. So it came as a bit of a shock to find out that suddenly he wasn't.
Yeah, that's an uncontrollable goal, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You should always make goals that you can control.
Mm-hmm. For example?
Being the best that you can be, rather than... Yeah, I'm sure Ernie's not disappointed with the man he's turned into.
No, absolutely not.
He's got a lovely family, and he always appears to do things right. He enjoys himself when he, wants to.
Where does the becoming world number 1 rank in your list of achievements?
Number 1, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think any time you can sort of stand in a... I was telling the story the other day, when you're world number 1, it dawns on you at strange times, and any time you can stand in the bread aisle of the supermarket and think, I'm the best golfer in this supermarket,
yeah.
then it's a big world, isn't it? Especially if you travel it a little bit and get out there and see it and see how many people play golf and how many golf courses there are, and to get to the pinnacle of anything is obviously, especially when you've worked so hard for it, you're not given anything.
Yeah.
And I guess it was in the Tiger era because I took the number 1 spot of Tiger as well.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
It's not, that's got to be a little bit more. That's the cherry on top of the cake, I guess.
Does it surprise you that Tiger mucked about with his technique as much as he did?
Not really, because I think great players like that, we all strive to be better. And if you stand still, then you're just going to stay at that level. So you try and look for little places where you can fine-tune things and tweak things.
Are you still like that?
Body, I
You seem much more relaxed with life at the moment.
I enjoy the journey more than I used to. It used to be all about winning, but I enjoy going out on the range and hitting balls and practicing almost as much as I do playing. I like playing. I love competing and testing myself, but I enjoy the journey more now. I've always enjoyed the journey from starting playing golf really to where I am now. But yeah, I'm certainly in a good place in life.
There was one blip though.
There's been more than
the
one
slump.
blip.
The slump.
It's been more than one blip.
yeah, but that was the most notable one. I mean, you were in trouble. Was there a moment where you thought, I'm not coming back from this?
Yeah, for sure. A few times. Yeah, wanting to give it up and kind of thinking, is this rock bottom? Oh no, there's worse to come.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm at rock bottom. No, I'm not. There could be even more coming. But I'm not the type to give up. So you're just always looking for a way. What am I going to do? You're looking for a plan and a route out of it.
Yeah. What the hell happened though? I mean, was it one morning you woke up, because it's there, but for the grace of God. There's plenty of examples of guys that had it one day and gone the next.
Yeah.
Or was it a steady deterioration for you, or are you just on the wrong track? Or
I think that's
what
just
was
the vagaries of golf and how precise it is, and how precise you have to be, and how many different facets come into it. That just one goes, it can wreck your whole game.
Yeah.
So you've always got to stay on top of everything, and that's the hard thing about golf. Splitting up your time and apportioning enough to each part of the game where you hold your game at, especially when you're world number 1, you hold the game at the highest level.
Yeah.
And then when I did start to play poorly, I felt my swing going in 2000, even when I was playing well and I won the Order of Merit in Europe. And then I had a good period of time off at the beginning of 2001 because I was tired. I came back and I couldn't get any kind of rhythm or... I think the synchronization in my golf, looking back now, I think the synchronization in my golf swing went. And it's all right going through the right positions, but you've got to be going through them at the right time.
Yeah.
And have the speed and the power in at the right time. And I think I lost all that. And then I went from coach to coach, and that listening to too many people and trying too many different things, and you if it's a straight road, you're always going to have little offshoots off the road. But I was going off too wide, and eventually I couldn't see the road that I originally took.
Right. And yet you came here at the Belfry. We're here for the British Masters in 2002 for the postponed Ryder Cup, and managed to compete pretty well. I mean, I know you've given Sergio a fair bit of credit for that.
Yeah.
In your time, but did he help in terms of attitude? At
least? More than anything. I was struggling mentally. I hadn't played very well for a while, and Sergio was a very bubbly character and very confident man. He that rubbed off on me really.
Yeah.
I was only in that Ryder Cup team because of what I'd done at the end of 2000. Really.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been the same team in 2002 had it been normal.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
And but I was never not going to play because that's not fair on the Americans. And I just didn't want to let anybody down, really, because you obviously representing your other 11 teammates, and you want to play as well as you can. Fortunately, I played well, and we were unlucky, really, not to win 4 out of 4 points, me and Sergio. he missed one from about 4 feet on 17. We were 1 up with 2 to play against Davis Love and Tiger Woods, and he missed one from about 4 feet to go 1 up with 1 to play on 17, and I missed from about 4 feet on the last, so we lost the last 2 holes to go from 1 up to 1 down. Fortunately, it didn't affect the overall result.
Is there a worse place to be in golf than at a Ryder Cup playing badly?
Not many places. No.
Have you been in that position? I mean,
I've been in that position a couple of times, yeah. Stood on the range, say on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, thinking, oh, God, this does not feel good this week. Because you're not going to find it at a Ryder Cup.
Probably not.
No.
Which ones were they?
Well, certainly that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hazeltine comes to mind. It's probably been a couple.
Have you got to be honest?
I played well most of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. But have you got to be honest enough to tell the captain where you are?
Yeah.
When you're at that?
Yeah.
Is that what you did?
I've stood in front of captains and said, don't be afraid to drop me.
Aye.
I'm by no means flushing it.
Yeah. Excuse me, I want us to get... we're going to do a little quiz here. I had a look at you. I did some research, can you believe, for this. You've had 13 Ryder Cup partners in your career. Tell me how many you can name.
I could probably name a lot.
Go on then.
Well, I will start from the beginning.
Yeah.
This is a very good place to start.
Indeed.
With Faldo.
Yep.
And Darren Clark.
Yep.
And Sergio Garcia.
Yep.
And then Sergio Garcia and Darren Clark in Detroit.
Yep.
And then Darren and Monty.
Yep.
At the K Club.
Mm-hmm.
And then Soren Hansen.
Oh, that was the one I thought you might not get.
In Valhalla.
Yeah.
And Martin Keimer and Luke Donald.
Yeah. You're even getting them in the right order.
I know. You're breaking my concentration. Don't do that.
Well, I'm trying that. Yeah.
Molinari.
Yeah.
How often did I play with Molinari there?
Twice.
Yeah. I might only have played twice, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Should I move on to 14? Where was that? I'm struggling to remember where Ryder Cups were.
Well, you're at Medina.
So it must have been Glen Eagles after that, was it?
Glen Eagles is 2012.
No,
2014, but Medina's 2012.
And
you've missed one.
I've missed one there. Have I?
And it's one that I thought you would get right away. It's the easiest game you've ever played in the Ryder Cup.
Oh, yeah, Nicholas Kalsarts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have got that.
Because I remember saying to you, well played, Lee, after that one, and I got a dirty look from you.
I didn't do anything. I parred the 12th. That was it.
Yeah.
So that's, Molinari and Kalsarts.
Yep. You've got 4 more to get.
Right. Jamie Donaldson.
Yep.
Where are we going next? Danny Willett and Thomas Peters.
Yep.
Didn't play the next one.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last one, which was at Matt Fitzpatrick.
Matt Fitzpatrick. Well done. Yeah, you got them all. That's pretty good for somebody at your advancing years.
I know.
Remember all that.
Yeah.
So, do you find that? I think that's a bit of a compliment, the fact that you played with so many. I mean, you played with more and more as you got older and more experience.
More experience, yeah.
You started off with, you kind of stuck with the same guys, but...
Guys who've got similar games to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, Darren and Sergio, we're good drivers of the golf ball. We did it similar distances.
Yeah. What's your philosophy on partnerships? It's different for foursomes and fourballs.
Foursomes, I think you want similar games, so you don't end up in places that you're not used to.
Right.
And four balls, it's just about chemistry, really. I think who knows? Who'd have said me and Kalsarts was a good pair?
Well, I mean, I could have gone out with Nicholas Kalsarts that day. Let's be honest.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah,
I won't dispute.
No. I mean, it's not an insult to you because he was ridiculous. He just hold everything.
Having said that, we did only win on the last.
I know, but you were playing
if I
Tiger.
hadn't have been there on 12,
Well, that's true.
We'd have halved.
I'm sure he gave you a lot of credit afterwards.
He needed to. Yeah. I was like a cheerleader that day.
Yeah.
Somebody should just give me some pom poms.
It's true. That would have been a sight. So Ryder Cups, I mean, everybody talks about the 3 levels of pressure. Tournament pressure, major championship pressure,
Yeah.
Ryder Cup pressure. Why? It's always intrigued me a bit that guys like you who've played for majors and money, unimaginable, get into the Ryder Cup. There's no money. You're playing for a point. Why is it? I mean, I've seen guys like, who can hardly walk at the end, never mind hit the golf ball.
Yeah, with the shakes on the first.
Yeah, why does it get to that point?
I think it's partly to do with the length of the build-up. Everybody talking about it. It comes around once every 2 years, doesn't it? So it's not like a major championship. You always think, there's another major championship in a month or a couple of months or whatever. I think there's a big part of not wanting to let anybody down, not wanting to let your partner down or the rest of your teammates. And I just think, it's the Ryder Cup. It's prestigious and you want to beat the Americans.
Yeah, which you did.
They want to beat us.
For an extraordinary level a number of times recently. Forget the last one, but any explanation for that? I mean,
the amount we've won?
Yeah, on paper that shouldn't have been. Yeah, I can see you winning now and again, but to the point where you did, I mean, it makes little sense on paper, at least.
Yeah, I think we've been the better side when we've won, and they've been the better side when they've won. I think a lot of it comes down to who plays the last hole the best, because it's very fine margin.
Yeah.
On, it's very rarely do you get like a 7 and 6 or 6 and 5. It's always like 2 and 1 or 3 and 2 or 1 up. The final hole, who can hold their nerve and make that 6-7 footer when they need to.
Yeah.
Makes a massive difference. The difference between
at the level you're talking about, it's going to be fine
it's
margins,
huge. Yeah. It's a 2-point swing, isn't it? So,
albeit
and
the occasional one where again at your level somebody goes out and just plays like Colsaerts did.
Yeah, but we still only won on the last.
Well, yeah, but you see the big wins occasionally when somebody just goes mental.
Yeah.
So,
Normally against Wuzzy, isn't it?
There's no explaining that either. Never won a singles. Ridiculous. Yeah. So, the last time it's fine margins, as I say, the Ryder Cup. I was talking to somebody about the last Ryder Cup, which on the face of it, America won convincingly. But I was saying on the Saturday night, if you think about it, this is how you can look at things. It was 11-5 for America. Excuse me. But that basically, to me, 6-point difference came down. The only difference there was Rory playing poorly and Rory playing well. Rory played poorly.
Well, I
lost
won't
3
talk
times.
about anybody else's game, but looking back at Hazeltine, I played with Danny, and I think we lost on the last, and I played average. I played average, let Thomas down when I played with him, and I think we lost maybe 2-1 or something like that. Maybe even lost on the last. And then in the singles, I lost on the last as well. So, whilst Hazeltine looked like a big loss, if I'd have played all right that week, I feel like, it would have been close.
Yeah.
So it does come down to 1 or 2 players, not pulling the weight every now and again.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and it's always the same in every team that if your top 2 or 3 players in your team, if they all play well and win most of their games, the very worst thing that can happen is that you'll lose narrowly.
Yeah.
And you'll probably win.
Yeah. And then if you've got somebody that steps into the team and just becomes a natural, like Thomas Peters did at Hazeltine, then it gives you an even better chance, doesn't it? We had a load of rookies somewhere. Detroit, we didn't particularly have an experienced team there, and everybody won a point. All the rookies came in and did a bit of a job, and then all of a sudden you win by a record margin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Again, I mean, Rory the last time got very emotional publicly about how badly he'd played or how badly he felt he'd played. There must be some examples of that you can share with us where you've seen extreme emotion, certainly in the team room. I mean, if you can take us in there as much as you can. I know what's in there supposed to stay in there.
Yeah.
Give us a flavour of it.
Everybody's always emotional whether we win or whether we lose. So, it is an emotional week. Emotional levels are running high, and at the end of it, it's either a big release or you just gutted because you've lost. Sat in the changing rooms at Brookline in '99, when Justin Leonard held that put on 17, and then Jose Maria missed his. It was like I was sat in the clubhouse with a couple of other people, and I didn't burst into tears, but they burst into tears.
Brookline.
Yeah, it's just you put a lot into it, really.
Have you come close to that?
Yeah. Yeah, especially this last one, yeah. I don't know whether it was having Sam there caddying for me or, feeling like it might be my last Ryder Cup, who knows, but, it may have been. I just got a bit emotional.
What normally makes you emotional? Do you cry at Love Story?
No, not really. Great sporting achievements, yeah. Yeah. If I'm watching a story, where somebody's overcome adversity, I get emotional then.
Yeah. I remember talking to somebody just the other day about this, and, you're right. I love watching somebody, even sports that I know nothing about or have no interest in, if it's done at an incredible level, you can watch it. I always use the example of ice dancing.
Yeah.
You thought ice dancing, and then you saw Torvill and Dean, and he went, "Wow!"
Yeah.
Have you got some example?
Yeah,
of that?
a horse race.
Yeah.
Where horses.
Yeah.
If I watch a horse race that involves secretariat,
Yes.
I get emotional.
Yeah.
I got a little bit emotional the other day watching Ronnie O'Sullivan win the World Championship because I could see it meant a lot to him, and just when somebody's battled back from a dark place, you can see it means a lot to him. It makes me emotional. Yeah.
So it brings a tear to the eye, does it?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's nice. Good to know. Inevitably, I have to ask you about majors. Now, I did a story at the Masters this year because, as it turned out, it was Sandy Lyle's 100th major. He had no idea, of course, but it was his 100th. So which made me delve into Sandy's record in the 100 majors. He won 2, as we know. He had 2 other top 10s.
Get away.
Both in the Open.
Really?
His only top 10 in an American major was when he won at Augusta.
Wow.
He missed the cut in 47 and withdrew in 2. So basically half the time he was home by the weekend. Of course, for this, I then had a look at your record. 89.
I didn't win 2.
No, but I'm getting to that. 89 majors you've played in, 19 top 10s and only 19 missed cuts. I mean, that's an extraordinary record. I mean, I know that people will point to, well, he never won one. But my goodness, I mean, over a long period, that's something you should be proud of, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I've played golf to a high level for a very long time now, and, that is something I'm proud of, yeah. Yeah, I think longevity in sports is... I look at Tom Brady, how he's carrying on, and Ronaldo's carrying on playing at a high level at football, and Ronnie O'Sullivan.
Yeah.
7 world championships. It takes a lot of dedication and hard work to stay at the top level for a long time.
What would be the one that you'll look back on, though, and think?
Probably the Open at Turnberry. I played well all week, and I thought I've been thinking well all week, and I just got out of being in the moment, being in the present. And I looked back and I thought, oh, well, Tom's going to make par from there. I need to make this, and I charged it 8 foot past the mistake coming back and missed out on the playoff. So, and the other one would be Torrey Pines in
when Tiger
won.
Yeah. People forget you were playing with Tiger.
Yeah, I was 1 out of the playoff. I was on the final green when he held that putt. So, I feel like I could have. I probably should have won that US Open. I think Phil winning in 2010.
He beat you then.
Yeah, he shot 67 and I shot 71, and I think he won by 3. And Danny winning in 2016, we kind of backed into it, didn't we, with Jordan making a mess at 12. And then Danny made a great birdie at 16, and I hit the wrong club and then 3-putted. Or didn't hit the wrong club, hit a poor shot in the middle of the green, didn't strike it properly. I guess other seconds, the Open at St Andrews in 2010, nobody was ever really close to him.
That was Louis.
Louis, yeah.
Yeah, the draw had a lot to do with that.
Yeah.
I would say if Rory had Louis' draw, he might have won it by 12.
Well, you never know.
Yeah. So.
And there's no point in doing ifs and buts in professional golf, especially Open Championships with the weather.
Yeah. Would you like to go back to the middle of that fairway at Turnberry, though, and or look back at Watson and know that he was taking 5? That would have changed everything.
No, not really. You do what you think's right at the time.
I'm not saying you did anything wrong, but must be. You must.
I mean,
you'd be less than human if you didn't think about
on 15. I hit a great shot in there, and it got a horrible kick off a mound short of the flag and flew through. We were playing to keep it short of the pin. It whizzed through the back off this mound and went into the back trap, and you couldn't get it up and down from there. So I made bogey, and then I missed the green long. Left on 16, chipped down and left a putt hanging on the edge. 17, I hit 2 good shots in there to about 12 foot and left it hanging on the edge for eagle. So, the luck wasn't smiling down on me. And then I did that at 18, which was my own doing. But, I just didn't have the breaks when I needed them coming in.
Yeah. So how do you view those sort of things with the benefit of hindsight? I mean, is there regrets? Is there shrug of the shoulders?
I just shrug my shoulders then.
Yeah, well,
I don't do regrets. They're worthless, really.
Yeah.
You've got to do what you feels right at the time and be committed to that.
See, the reason I brought up Sandy, not to pick on Sandy, but Sandy's in the World Golf Hall of Fame, and I'm sure you'll be in at some point. But it's an extraordinary record. I knew you'd been up there. I
wouldn't be in the World Golf Hall of Fame from a major record, would I?
No, you would. That's my point. I think you can.
It's called the World Golf Hall of Fame, so I've been world number one.
Aye.
I've won more times around the world in different countries than anybody else. So if anybody's a worldly golfer, it's me. I've won in 19 different countries. Nobody's. I think the next best 11.
Yeah.
Ernie and Gary. So.
Yeah.
If it's a World Golf Hall of Fame.
Yeah, well, they used to have the international section in the World Golf Hall of Fame, believe it or not.
Well, we'll not go too strongly into that, will we?
No. I also, kind of tongue-in-cheek, I'm a big admirer of longevity, which you've had. And I always kind of, almost a little bit tongue-in-cheek, I make the case sometimes that Sam Snead might be the greatest golfer of all time. Because Sam Snead was competitive in majors in his 60s, which nobody else has done. He's the only one. Your thoughts?
Well, that's the great thing about golf, isn't it? There's so many different things that you can rate players on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look at Langer, what Langer does. Still competitive at 64, is he? Maybe not in major championships, but I would say it was easier for Sam Snead to be competitive in major championships in that era than it would be Bernard Langer in this era.
Yeah.
The length of golf courses has changed. As technology, distances has changed golf so much that we're having to find new ways of rating people, if you want to call it that. Yeah.
You touched on that there, and I fine well that I bang on about it to probably an excessive degree, but the state of the game at your level in terms of the distance and the equipment and the rest of it, I maintain that the game at your level isn't as much fun to watch as it was back in the days of Trevino and Seve and the rest of them. It's not a criticism of the players, it's a criticism of the game. Where do you stand in all
it's not as much fun to play as well. Even from when I started playing in the 90s, you could move the ball around. If you didn't have a good technique, you could the ball would balloon on you, and distance control was a lot harder. Now I do clinics and I say, I'm going to move it this way, I'm going to move it that way, and it moves like a yard or 2 yards, whereas you used to be able to move it 10, 15 yards, and people loved that. And it's a skill that's gone, unfortunately.
We don't need it.
But you found that the best ball striker had an advantage. Great drivers of the golf ball, when you had to actually hit it out the middle.
Yeah.
You don't have to hit it out the middle anymore, and it still goes 300 yards and straight. That's the ball and the driver having a massive effect and taking great drivers of the golf ball their advantage away.
Yeah. Yeah, Norman was one, Nick Price, Ian Woosnam, all got to number one in the world. And they separated themselves a lot through the driving. It's at your level, it's gone from the hardest thing to do to the easiest.
How good would Seve have been this day and age?
Yeah.
If anything let him down, it was his driving, wasn't it? And I guess with his short game and iron play and putting, he would have been dominating now.
Yeah. And I think Tiger would have won even more.
Yeah, quite possibly, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I watched him play at the President's Cup at Royal Melbourne, and he was a different class from everybody else on that golf course, because it was a golf course that encouraged that sort of play, even with that equipment.
Yeah.
You know.
There's no doubt about it. You know, in his heyday, if Tiger drove the ball well, he was probably going to win by 10.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, certainly the best golf I've ever seen was Pebble Beach when he won the US Open. So.
I would argue Akron, maybe.
Yeah.
Dominating.
Well, he won there every time.
That's a great golf course for good players. You know, you need to shape the ball around there. It's not driver everywhere.
Yeah. Lee, we're going to finish up with the inevitable. I felt a wee bit sorry for you yesterday here at the Belfry when you were, pummeled a little bit on your. You stuck your hand. One of the first to stick your hand up and say that you want to play in the Saudi event next month. This.
Well, I've asked for a release.
Yeah,
for it.
yeah. This podcast won't come out until maybe the week before that tournament, so it'll be early June. So we're kind of getting ahead of it a little bit. I mean, what's your feeling on? I mean, your friend of mine, Eamon Lynch, who's been on this podcast, has already had a go. It's hard to argue with the human rights stuff, but you've got to get past that.
I don't argue with the human rights stuff.
No.
I've said before, Saudi Arabia's got problems with their human rights, and a lot of countries around the rest of the world have as well, but they seem to be trying to do something about it. It's interesting that people, bring up, women in Saudi Arabia, but, they're obviously putting a lot of money into sport, and one of the things they're putting in money into is women's golf. They're the biggest sponsor of women's golf worldwide, so they are trying to improve and, use golf as a vehicle for change. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, sport as a vehicle for change, really.
Yeah, well, hopefully. But having said that, they're still chopping heads off and things. I mean,
like we said before, I don't really want to get into, political discussions and stuff like that on the subject. But yeah, they have got issues, and they need to work on those.
Do you think the whole thing's got a future? The golf.
I feel like golf is at a crossroads, and if I'm being completely honest, it's starting to get a bit boring. And I think change would be good right now. I think when I look at golf, the things I like are, I would like it to be faster. I think it takes too long. I think that puts a lot of people off. I like a team aspect in it. I think people love the Ryder Cup. They love the pairs that was going on in the Zurich a couple of weeks ago on the PGA Tour. They like match play. There's a match play element to this new live thing. So they're trying to incorporate all of those. So I'm quite excited about the format and the fact that, it won't be 72-hole tournaments week in, week out. And, if you want confirmation that it's a good idea, look at what the PGA Tour are trying to do at the end of the season. It's almost an exact copy of what Liv are trying to do with their events. So they must think it's a good idea as well.
Yeah, if the worst thing that happens is that it provokes change, like you've just said.
Yeah.
I mean, I've argued recently that, the PGA Tour, and to the extent this, it's a tired product. It's too much the same every week.
Yeah.
And I'm not paying attention. And I'm keen, I'm a total golf geek. And if I'm not paying attention, the casual fan probably isn't either.
No, I love watching golf, but I don't watch it half as much as I used to. I'll watch, if I'm not in a major championship, I'll watch the last 9 holes of a major championship. I would watch the Ryder Cup, I guess, if I'm not in. I think the first round of the match play, even though they've gone to this round robin groups type thing, I think the first day or the first couple of days, where there's a lot of games all on the course at the same time, is one of the most exciting days of the year for watching golf.
It's my favourite day when it was just straight match play.
Yeah, mine too.
The first round was tremendous.
I think people, like to see a bit of sort of, I don't want to say shit or bust, but they want to see, people going home after one round. They want to see it happening quickly.
And I get that pros like yourself, they hate to say that they lost, that word lost comes into it.
Yeah.
You know, because you get patted on the back for coming sixth most weeks.
Yeah.
You know, but 5 guys beat you. You know.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I played 800 tournaments nearly and won 44 times.
Yeah, well,
and that's considered quite a high winning ratio. So
yeah. Well, this week is your 584th European Tour event, or DP World Tour event, I should say.
yeah, my legs feel like it is as well.
And you've won, I have to tell you, you've won 38,635,337 euro so far. What have you done with it all?
I don't know where all that's gone.
Yeah.
Various places.
It's an expensive business.
It is an expensive business, yeah. One thing you've got to remember about golf is nobody pays our expenses. If we don't play well, you know, it's you don't earn any money that week.
What's an average week cost-wise?
Well, it depends where it is.
So
obviously, this
I'm
week I'm
talking
not
average.
flying anywhere.
Yeah.
But if I'm flying to America, you know, I'll fly in business class. By the time a caddy, hotel, it could be $12,000 to get there for the first week.
Yeah. Before you even start. Yeah.
Before you even hit a ball, yeah.
Yeah. You've kind of gone in and out. You mentioned it yesterday in your press conference here. You've never been a PGA Tour guy, if you like, to the extent that some, and that you've gone in and out. I mean,
And actually, you say that. It's not just me saying that. I actually had a meeting with Jay Monahan at the Players this year, and he said to me, you know, we've never really got to know each other very well. We've never sat down and I've never really sat down with anybody from the PGA Tour very much, and you know, got to know them and them get to know me, which is a bit of a shame, really. When you consider I've been around for 25 years, it's my last.
But you weren't
first one
there that much, maybe in terms.
Yeah,
You know, so.
I've always considered myself a European Tour player. You know, I like playing on the European Tour. I like playing in England in front of my own fans. For a period of time, I lived in America, so you know, it made sense to play there. But you know, I predominantly lived in England, and just enjoyed playing around the rest of the world as much as I have in the States. So I've liked going down to Australia and playing in the Middle East and playing in Asia, and you know, hence I've won tournaments everywhere.
Yeah.
I've never wanted to just be one-dimensional, really, and just play on the PGA Tour.
And yet, just to finish up, like me, when it comes to football, you're drawn to futility in Nottingham Forest. I mean,
Oh, maybe not this year.
well, you know,
The lights, the heady heights, and the bright flashing lights of the Premiership beckon.
maybe. Maybe by the time this comes out, you'll be celebrating. But
Maybe I'll have been to the playoff final and then we will have beaten whoever at Wembley, yeah.
But there you were at St James's Park at the weekend watching Newcastle play Liverpool. I mean,
Well, I live in Newcastle,
you get-
15 minutes from the
well,
ground.
but you're obviously easily, you know, turned.
And a lot of my friends are Newcastle United fans, and I knew I was coming here, so I didn't want to add in 6 hours in a car backwards and forwards to the City Ground, because I knew I needed to mentally prepare for this podcast with you.
Well, that's true. Well, and thank you for doing that, and thank you for your time.
Pleasure.
It's been a pleasure as always.
Thanks.
Cheers.
What a global superstar of the game Westwood has been for the best part of 2 decades. That major statistic that Huggy gave about Sandy Lyle really does point to just what a stalwart of the game the Englishman has been. Well, that's it for episode 67, but make sure to come back next time for a lesson in humility from one of this country's best coaches.
I've been one Australian coach who's worked with some successful players. So you mentioned Mark Leishman before, who I still work with. We've had a relationship for over 20 years. I can say very sincerely that he is the same guy that I met all those years ago. Like, all his success, everything he's achieved in the world of golf hasn't changed in one iota.
That's Dennis McDade, next time on The Thing About Golf.